Hey, I'm Inferno, and today I want to see if I can upgrade a village. So, upgrading a village, what do we mean by that? Well, as you probably know, villages in Minecraft are one of the most beautiful pre-generated structures ever, um, except for the fact that they actually look pretty bad. It's pretty basic. The houses are basically just boxes. There's not a lot of visual interest here. Some work could be done to make them just a little bit more interesting. And so here I have just generated a new world. This is a seed I haven't previewed before, and I want to make this place look a little bit better. One thing that's really interesting about this village is if we come right over here, you can see just on the horizon we actually have a pillager outpost that is pretty close by. This was not part of my original plan to upgrade a pillager outpost or incorporate that into the build, but because it's here, I might decide to do something with that later. We'll find out after we get started. So, village upgrading. I have a few rules that I'm going to set down ahead of time. So I'm not going to use super fancy blocks, and I am not going to basically use anything that isn't already here. So for example, we have some oak here. So I'm going to let myself use oak logs, stripped oak, plank slabs, and stairs and all that kind of thing. But I'm not going to start incorporating like dark oak or acacia or anything because that is not part of the original village architecture. Same goes for things like cobblestone. So we have cobblestone, we have mossy cobblestone. I'm going to be using both of those in addition to glass and glass panes. But I'm going to try to not use anything that is too different to the original village design. I'm going to try to stick with the blocks that are already here, and then work a little building magic to just reshape things a little bit and make them look nicer. So my goals are to take what's already here. For example, this I believe is a smithery. We're not gonna change what it is. We're just gonna make it nicer. And in doing that, I'm hoping to have each individual building looking a little different. So let's just explore the village real quick and see what we're working with. So right here we have a couple houses. This is the house with the stripped and the terracotta. We got the cobblestone going on. Still, can I get out, please? We have a few of these lamp posts that just sort of have these torches around. We have this sort of like the house for the smith. What is this? We have to look inside. We have to see. I'm actually not sure what these are supposed to be, but it's like this double house, so maybe we can convert this into an apartment later. We'll just have to see. I'm gonna start with this one, and we're gonna get going and see where it takes us. So I'm gonna grab this oak log. I think I still want to use the basic design. Alright, so as you can see here, basically what I've done is I've just expanded on the original sort of box that's made by these oak logs. I've just pulled it out a little bit, I've made it just a tad higher, and then I have also expanded the borders on the side so that we sort of break away from just the regular box shape. And now it is looking a little bit better. It has that sort of L shape to it now. It's not super complicated, but it's just enough to add some visual interest so that it isn't strictly just a box. Alright, so I want to keep this door where it is. Aside from that, though, the original build is actually starting to get in the way. So now that we've figured out where we're going to keep, we figured out what we're going to change, I think I am going to get rid of the house that's sort of inside our new house. And then that'll leave a little bit more room to sort of work on the walls and get the windows taken care of. Now that I'm thinking about it, it would actually be kind of funny if we left the original house inside of the new house. It'd be sort of like Houseception, and that might be something fun to do in like a survival world for your base, like to have just like a tinier base inside your base, so that oh, this base looks awesome on the outside, and then you go inside and there's an even tinier base inside of that base. That's the kind of Minecraft shenanigans that I get a great deal of enjoyment out of, personally. I just realized that in demolishing the old house, I have destroyed the one part of the new house that I actually made in the wall there, and yeah, I guess we got to build that back again. So I'm going to work on cleaning up this edge at the bottom a little bit. and then after that I'm going to move on to windows. For this edging, basically what I'm just doing is I'm putting in a slab of the same block I have as the wall. A lot of times you might want to use a different slab, or maybe just build it up with grass or something. This is just what I decided to do for this one, and for a little uneven edge there, I think it actually looks better if we just keep that raised all the way across. There we go. But yeah, just having sort of like a little bit of a rim at the bottom of your build, it makes the whole thing feel a lot more sort of weighted and grounded. So I'm going to look at some areas like this, and I think a 4x4 window right in the middle would look pretty good. So what we're going to do here is we are going to just fill that in with glass panes. Yeah, we got our trapdoors here, and this is a pretty old trick, but basically you just put a couple of trapdoors right on the edge there, and then you just make them go flat, and you have a pretty nice looking windowsill. Or sorry, you have shutters. Shutters is what you have. Yeah, so I like that. I think I'm going to keep it. It adds a little bit of variety. I still think it looks better if we leave the cobblestone under the shutters, just so that it's not like, it doesn't look like just another box. We have this nice wooden bar across the top and the bottom, and then the shutters on the sides, and I think that looks good. So I'm going to do something similar. However, for areas like this, I have this post here. I like where that post is. Again, it makes it feel like the whole thing is more grounded, and I'm not going to bother with a window in spaces like that. I'm just going to put windows in the bigger spaces. Alright, so now that I think we put in all the walls and windows, I'm pretty sure we didn't miss any spots. We can go inside right here, and oh look, we can look outside. So I'm using cobblestone right here to lay out the basic structure for my roof first, and then I can put the stairs on top of that and sort of build from this base structure that I have right here. So I ended up extending the roof on each side and making it hang over the edge a little bit. Still got a couple areas to finish up here. And then one other thing that I did was adding windows at the top. We can light up the interiors later, and that'll make the windows look a little bit better. But for that house, I think that's just about it. That's only one house in our whole village, and it actually took quite a while. But here it is, and I think it is just about done. So now that we have our first house out of the way, there are a lot of little buildings pre-generated in this village, and for most of the small ones, it's basically either this sort of like cobblestone and oak base, or this stripped oak and terracotta base. I believe this is, yeah, that's white terracotta. So I figured I'd convert most of these into sort of like house style builds. But I kind of had this idea that because, a lot of villages dedicated to like farm areas, we have animals for farms, we have farmers and that are growing crops. What if these terracotta ones were more like grain silos? And we could do more of like a circular build and make them taller. So I'm going to at least attempt that, and we'll see how that goes later. I think I'm going to have to basically tear this down, though, to get started. Alright, so I made our base for this first one pretty big, mostly because I like the look of this Minecraft circle template here. So all the other ones may not be quite as big as this. I may have to scale them down. But as far as this goes, I like the look of it so far. So I think I'm going to continue with it and pull it up to a few levels and maybe do a cobblestone rim around each level. Alright, so hopefully now you can sort of see what I was talking about in that last clip. So we have our circle base here. We've sort of widened it out. I decided to use mossy cobblestone since that is part of the pre-generated blocks we were given, and we didn't really use it on the last build. And I've got a couple levels here. I decided to use the strip logs sort of on the corners, but there's not really corners on a circle. But I use them every so often to look like supports, and then we used our white terracotta in between. I really like how it's coming along so far, so now I think I'm going to use the oak to give it sort of a domed roof. Those are a little tricky to do, but I'm going to try my best. And there we go. I just finished putting the dome roof on. It looks pretty good to me. I'm actually pretty happy with how it turned out. We only have 2 builds done here, so now that we have our house done and our grain silo done, I'm going to move through the next ones probably off camera. One of the things that I did want to do is do this little farm here. I think this could totally use a renovation. Right now, it's just, some dirt, some plants, some logs. I don't want to change it too much because it is pretty simple right now, and I think the simple looks good for this. But I do want to just make it look a little bit better, maybe less flat, and actually add some geometry to it. I think that could actually end up looking pretty dang good. So let's see what we can come up with for this. Alright, so for this one, I basically decided to ditch the regular logs completely, with the exception of the stripped logs at the corner. So I added some stairs around the edge here, and then I decided to go for these pillars. I wanted something that looked a little viney, so the mossy cobble was a pretty good choice for that, I think. And then I put a little bit of a gate rim. I didn't want to put an entire roof over this, because these are still plants, they're supposed to be getting sunlight, but I just thought a little bit of a more built-up structure would look nicer than just the generic border that they had around them before with the logs and nothing else. Also, side note, for some reason, the very top of that grain silo was still bothering me a little bit, so I went ahead and fixed it. I think it looks way better now. This video is going to take way longer than I thought it was going to edit. I just know it right now. So without going into too much detail, I basically just converted this little fish house into a more fishy looking fish house, and I put the whole thing on stilts in the little area of water that it had before. After I do all these houses, I am going to renovate the road a little bit just to make it a bit cleaner. Alright, so I did quite a bit of work off camera that I can go over right now. Starting over here, we have a little bit of sort of a fishing house. It comes out to a pond out back that I started on adding a little dock. I had the idea that it could sort of have like kind of like a green roof, so we've got grass and then a bunch of tall flowers and plants right here, and then just like a minor slanted edge so it's not like completely flat and has a little bit of shape to it. I started changing around some of the animal pens a bit, but I did get started on sort of a barn over here. Originally this was just a wide pen with several animals, so I just sort of changed the frame a little bit, made it look a little bit nicer, and yeah, that's how that's going right now. Right here, we sort of had this fishing house that was up on stilts, and it had a tiny bit of water. I think next I'm going to expand this water a little bit so that it's not like just a puddle and it looks a little bit more like an actual pond. Maybe even have a mini bridge out in the front. That might look cool. I converted this terracotta house into a mini silo. I tried to do as much as I could with this little lamp here. Instead of having a plain oak pole, basically what I did was I added some fence gates at the top, an iron bar, and a little bit of wood at the bottom. So it's a little bit more visually interesting than it was before. I would have really liked to add a lantern, but the rule that I said at the beginning was I could only use blocks that I found inside the village, and there are no lanterns in this village, so I couldn't use that. And then over here, this had some other animals in it, but I switched it out for a little bit of a dog house with some wolves, because to me, it just made sense that there should be wolves inside villages. They're really handy. And the last thing I worked on was this windmill. Originally, I intended that this building, you know, it might be kind of joined up, and we might do sort of like an apartment thing, because the original interior had like 2 levels, but I went through a few different designs, and eventually I landed on this windmill, and I really like how it turned out. So that's where we are right now. The next thing that I'm going to do is go through all of these little smith houses. I didn't realize before, there are actually 3 of them in this one village, which I'm pretty sure is kind of rare in Minecraft. So, because there are 3, I'm not going to do the exact same thing with each one. I like that so far all the buildings look pretty different. So I'm going to go with that theme and just see what I can do with all of these that's a little bit more industrial. I was actually wrong. There are not 3 of those smithing houses. There are 4. I honestly thought you were pretty lucky to encounter one of these in the village, because usually if you go in the chest, there's... Okay, this one's not that good, but there's usually pretty good stuff in the chests, and there are 4 of these in this one village. I thought like 1 or 2 was a pretty good find, and I didn't know that they generated with this many. This has already taken like a really long time to record, and this is a kind of a cluttered area, so I think I'm going to cheat a little bit, and instead of renovating this one, I think I might just demolish it. While I take this down, I also want to point out that I think I've called these like 3 different things during the course of this video, like smithery houses, or smithing houses, or smiths houses. I know the names of like a lot of things in Minecraft, but I'm just now realizing I don't even think I know what these are technically called in Minecraft, so I apologize to anyone who was just like cringing the entire time and who does know the actual name. I'm very sorry. You know, you have my condolences. You don't even realize until something is gone that it was actually taking up quite a lot of space, and now you have that space to work with. So now, real quick, I'm gonna go over our 3 Smith House things that we worked on. I added a few more grindstones and a little workbench area, and I also replaced the floor with just more of this paved block so that it looked like an open workspace and less of a house. So I feel like the intent of this build was not like to be lived in, like this is where you go to sleep, but to be worked in and used during the day. This is like an occupation area. For the next work area station that I built, I decided to go with more of like a wood theme. This one was closer to the forest, so I thought I would keep the trees close by. I made this little contraption to sort of look like it was cutting through logs, and then I made a few log piles here. We got a smaller one, and then we got a slightly bigger one with logs of different sizes, just so it's not so uniform and it looks a little bit more natural. And then this one was kind of interesting to build, so I probably deviated the most in this one and got quite a bit carried away. This is supposed to be like a little mining area, so I was thinking there'd be sort of like a crank crane sort of thing, and then I use these grindstones to make like a really long thick chain, and if we go under here there's actually like a little sort of caved area running underneath, and so we can look up and see that yeah, that's our chain going up, and then we have this grabber thing picking up a piece of gold ore. Now I know you may be thinking, hey Inferno, you said you were only going to use things that you found in the village or like in the surrounding area. You know, what's that gold ore? I don't see any houses made out of gold ore. Well, I think if you were to mine out this entire area, you would probably find at least 1 gold ore. I'm sticking with that story. I think all of the buildings are just about done now, so I'm going to do a minor little bit of terraforming here, polish up the roads, make sure I didn't miss any huge things on any of the houses, and we might just be about done. So this is the village before we started doing anything. Again, this is just a regular Plains village. Everything here is naturally generated. We haven't had our hand in anything yet in the design. We haven't started changing the architecture. We just have these, you know, pre-generated box houses here. And here we have the finished product after literally hours of work. This video ended up taking way longer than I thought it was going to record. That being said, though, I am really happy with the way it turned out. So the last thing we did was added in all of these roads here. I decided to go with a stone road design, so we have cobblestone in the middle, and then we have a raised edging of these smooth stone slabs. Each individual building is different, so they're all themed slightly differently. Some of them are similar, some of them are pretty different from each other, like the house in the silo here. I think I forgot a door. Now it is complete. Alright, there we go. Here is the finished product. Oh my gosh, we missed another door. So now that everything is all complete, I do want to go ahead and say, hey, I'm pretty sure I mentioned at the beginning of this video that at the very end we would be doing interiors. Interiors take quite a while, and as I also mentioned, this video took a long time to record. So I'm not going to be doing interiors today. This is just going to be an exterior build video, but again, I am really happy with how this turned out. I was playing with a few ideas throughout making this video about how to incorporate that ominous pillager tower looming in the distance, and I couldn't think of any way to incorporate it into this build since this was just supposed to be just a plain you know, normal village that we upgraded and made look nice, so that it is a little bit more lived in and looks a bit more realistic and an upgraded village. And there's not really space to have a bunch of pillager stuff in this like nice little farm town we've got going. But it did get me thinking, you know, another cool thing we might be able to do is to make a sort of what would a village look like if it was pillagers instead of villagers living in it, sort of like a full pillage village instead of just one tower. Definitely not gonna have time for that today, but it is an idea for a possible upcoming video that I might release later. So for this one, I hope everything looks nice. I hope everyone enjoyed watching. But that is going to be it for today. So until next time, later nerds.